In this live stream, we'll learn how to set up Cypress with Cucumber to better write end-to-end UI automated tests. So what is Cucumber? Cucumber is a tool and a way to let software development teams describe their software and their features in readable English plain text. And the beauty of this, the way it's written and the text, is that it's in business readable domain specific language, and that serves as documentation, and which is also serves as BDD or behavioral driven development automated tests. And so that's a very powerful feature and enables collaboration between PMs, QAs, as well as devs all together. And on this Cucumber homepage, you can see their example on the right, and you'll see that there are a few syntaxes, but it reads pretty plainly and simply. And so let's get straight into it. So the prerequisite of this live stream is that I did do a live stream before where I did Google search using Cypress. So we will pretty much reuse the code of this repository and simply build on top of that. And here we just simply set up and installed Cypress and everything. So we can just continue working off of this as a building block and foundation. So just following the instructions, you clone the repository, you cd into the directory, and then let me just change to my terminal. Here it is right over here. And then I have this already installed. So you can see that if I do npm ls cypress, npm ls cypress once again, and you'll see that I'm currently using version 7.0.1. So the first thing we want to do is that we want to add the Cucumber preprocessor, because by default, Cypress is written using Mocha as a test runner, and it doesn't really understand how feature files work. So we want to install that. So we want to do npm install cypress-cucumber-preprocessor, just like that. And just checking that my spelling is correct, preprocessor. That should be correct. And so as it installs, what the preprocessor does is this acts as a plugin for Cypress, where you have these feature files, which of course is written in English, and then it matches it to the actual code that runs the given, when, and then steps. And so that's how it knows, like given I go to this page, then I do that, it knows how to map the action with your feature file. And so it's currently installing. So while it's installing, I'm going to go to a new window tab or a new tab. And then in here, what I'll do is currently we have, because we already ran npx cypress open, meaning that we have Cypress initialized, and after initialize, it created certain example files as well. We can see that in Cypress, we have fixtures, integration, plugin support. And if we go into Cypress and integration, that's where all the tests currently live. We have examples directory and example.js. So I'm going to delete that since I don't need those files. I'm just going to Cypress, integration, and I'm going to delete example.js and examples, just like that. And we can check by just doing tree Cypress integration. And you'll see that the only file there is the GoogleSearch.js. Excellent. And checking back here, it's downloading and it just finished. Excellent, right on time. And so let's just double check. We have currently, we know already from here that we downloaded version 4.0.3, but just to show you over here as well, it should show the same version. There we go. Excellent. So let's get straight into writing our test. So we have this preprocessor open. So the first thing we want to do actually is we want to add it to our plugin. So if we go to Cypress, plugins, and index.js, which is this file, and I'll just show you in the file tree how it looks. It's in this directory. And here, there is no plugin added, but we want to add ours ourselves. And so pretty much all we want to do here is we want to do const cucumber equals, and now we want to require cypress-cucumber-preprocessor, and then we want to do .default because there's a default export on the module. And then going into module.exports, we want to use the on hook so that it hooks into the Cypress events emitter. And then we do on the file preprocessor. Then we want to call cucumber, just like that. And then we save that. And if we go to, and if we actually now go to Cypress open, let's just open it right now. And as we're waiting for it to open, since it might take some time, I'm going to go back to my integration directory. Since currently all it has, oh, it's opening right now. So let's just see it open. Cool, and we have this one test since we deleted everything else, one integration spec. And then going back to the Google search, this is our current Google search spec. And as you can see, this spec is written in JavaScript, and of course it's written using Mocha since Cypress uses Mocha under the hood, and it also has Cypress syntax as well, Cypress API commands. And so, you know, for the normal developer, writing it, maintaining it is mostly the developer's job, but with feature files, even QA can start writing feature files. Even PMs, when they write user stories, those user stories can become feature files. So that's a very powerful thing for cross collaboration among software teams. And so here, let's actually create our first feature file. So let's create GoogleSearch.feature. So the convention here is you have your file name and we keep it capital cased, and then the extension is .feature. And then so following it on the right, we see we have a describe and several it blocks. So the way feature files work is to add a comment is with the hash or the pound. So this is a comment. There's also something called a tag, but I'll explain tags later. But for now, you saw that in the Cucumber homepage example, there was the feature, there was the scenario, and then there was a given, when, and then. So feature can be anything. It's just a text description. And so you can just call this Google Search. Similar to how we have Google Search here as the top level or root describe block. So there can only be one feature per feature file, and it has to be at the root level. And then next up, and then here you can like write more text, like, you know, does something, and then something else. Like you can be as descriptive as you want to make this feature clear. Having just the text should suffice. And the next one is the scenario. So what the scenario does is scenario groups all the actual steps, the given, when, and then steps. So for the scenario, once again, it's a text description. You can write whatever you want. So you can say that search for remarkable mark on Google, just like that. Or you can write it in user story format, like as a user, I can search for remarkable mark on Google. That works as well. And here are the juicy steps, or the juicy parts. And these are the steps. So to kind of translate what we have on the right to the left, we have given. So given, how should we say it? So normally for these steps, we want to use present tense. And it's also nice to use like I, given user, given, you know, person. It makes things much easier to read. And so given I go to, and then here we want to go to the google.com, given I go to, so similar to how we had it over there. When I search for, and I want to search for remarkable mark, just like that, then I see, I think for now we can keep it as remarkable mark. But here it does a get first search result. This isn't actually a expectation. It doesn't have a, should or expect to be. And so this doesn't actually act as a test. This was just an example of showing how to, just automate basic searching stuff, and it doesn't actually have a real expectation. But for the test to be real, it should have, expect or should or whatnot. And so to kind of explain it really quickly again, the given step sets up the context. So think of it like a before block, where, given I am logged in, or given I am this user. And then the when step, what that does is it performs an action. So when logged in user clicks this button, when I do X. And then finally, the then is the actual expectation. Then I see something, right? It should be observable. And given that we want the BDD test to resemble user functionality as much as possible, like user behavior, we then try to do something that's on the UI. Like we don't say something like, then the database has this value, because that's not what the user sees. The users would see something on the user interface or on the web page. So that's pretty much the summary of it. And so let me just save it. And let me see if the test shows up here, and it does. So let's just click it and see what happens. Cool. And it's opening. It says tests are loading. So it is taking a bit of time. Usually it should be done faster. Okay, cool. So it'll have an error, which is expected. And the reason is because step implementation missing, or I go to www.google.com. And so this is where we need to map the actual step to, well, the actual step to our code. And so what we can do here is we can create a step definitions file. So we go back into here, and then what I can do is we can, at this point, we can, I will still keep the, oops, let me just reopen it again. I will still keep the JavaScript file, the spec on the left, but I will delete it later. And so let me create a directory, Google Search, just like that. And then in this directory, I'll name it step definitions. You can name this file like steps.js or something else. The naming doesn't really matter. And then here, we want to map the given whens and thens to this file. So using ES modules import, so we can import given, when, and then from cypress-cucumber-preprocessor /steps. So once I have these imported, then next thing I can do is I can actually I can map them. So I do given, and then the way the given works is it's as simple as doing something like that. So normally you saw that I have the string over here, and that was done intentionally. And that's because what you can do is you can use this string, which acts as a placeholder, and then this then value gets mapped as the first argument in the second callback argument, just like that. And so you can do something like this. And so that's our given step, pretty much. And then we want to do the same thing for our whens and thens. So when I search for, same thing here, do a string, and here I can say text. So here the actions will be a bit more complicated. I will leverage that JS file that I had to reuse it. And also, I did make a minor mistake. Since we have the given over here, you don't need to type given again over here. The same thing with when. So this will be the then. I see with the text. Okay. So let's just firstly check our test again. Let's see if we can rerun it and see if it's able to find it. Okay, so it's not found. I may need to reopen the Cypress test or Cypress. Gonna try again. Taking a bit of a time. Cue in Jeopardy music. Okay, cool. So it's missing. So I do need to restart it. So restarting is pretty simple. npx cypress open or yarn cypress open. You can also create an npm script for this. And so while it's opening, let me look at the JS file right over here. Okay. And while it's loading, the search for string is pretty much something like this. So I can just replace the command just like that. But now instead of having to type this, so let me first turn this into a string template literal, and then we can simply now just put in text like that. So now we don't even have to hard code the name, which is awesome. And that's another thing. It helps ensure your tests are dry by having these kind of string placeholders that can inject as template. You can reuse certain steps. Like if you have another feature file where you need to go to a different web page, you can reuse the I go to and then pass in a string to like example.com, for example. And then let me actually check this again. So I'm going to click on Google Search feature. That will open. And so I'll let that open in the background while I update this. So, and then IC string. So this, I might need to change the test a bit. So actually, let me look at this. Once this runs, I can use this GUI to help me figure out how I want the expectation for the test to be. All right. Okay, the step implementation is still missing. And I believe the reason for that is, so in our Cypress Cucumber, once we have that set up, we may also need to create a cypress-cucumber-preprocessor RC config file. So let me actually do that really quickly. I go up the directory, so now I'm in my root repository. So the way you can add it is it's based on of cosmic config. So via cosmic config, you can actually add it straight to your package.json, just like this. And then the way it's named is simply this thing, cypress-cucumber-preprocessor. And then here you can add in all your config files. So let me look and double check here. This is the npm package and the README. You can also find it on the homepage or the repository README. And we have this set up. So we did what we did. We added a feature file. And then we do need to add this. So here they've added the non-global step definitions. And what does that do? Let's just check it. It says, if true, use cypress-cucumber-preprocessor style pattern for placing step definition files. So in what that means is where it looks for the feature files with the mapping of the code can change. So if it's false, which is not the default, you have to actually specify false. The old school means is that everything becomes global. So if you write a certain feature file step, that step can be reused in like multiple directories, like above and below. So that's pretty much kind of the thing. I'll set it to true just to follow the recommendation here. Like that. So you can add it like this. And then with Cosmic Config, alternatively, so this is one way to do it. Alternatively, you can also simply just create like a .rc file over here. So cypress-cucumber-preprocessor, and then like you can do rc.json. Or rc is enough, but JSON is nice. There's also, I think, JS. You can even do YAML, but let's just do it like that because I find it cleaner and we don't really pollute our package.json as much. So the difference about here is you don't need this property field anymore. So let's save it. Sweet. And then let's also remove it over here. Nice. So we have that created. I might need to restart the Cypress test again. So let me actually just do that real quick. So reopening Cypress. This will take some time. On your local machine though, it should be faster. I wonder if it's because I'm streaming that it's slow, or maybe my laptop's just old. Cool. It opened. Once the dashboard is up, I'm going to click on the test so it can load. Cool. So while that's doing, let's figure out what we want to do over here. For now, we want to add an expectation over here. Okay, it's still loading. Over here, I can close this. I don't think I need the spec anymore, so I'm actually going to delete it. I think I'm at a place where I can delete this google-search.js. Yes. Let's see. This is still running. I'm waiting for that. Nice. So I found the spec. Excellent. And you can see that it's slowly typing and searching. And great. It found it. And so here for the IC, generally with Cypress, the get selectors, like, it looks like you're doing a query selector kind of syntax. And, it's useful if you know what the DOM element is. But the thing about, Cucumber style tests and the feature files is sometimes you might be doing something like I click on button or I see text. And there isn't really a way to do it using document query selector or cy.get. And so it's actually useful if you can't do it using like the normal CSS style selector or locator to actually use XPath. And XPath is great because it gives you more power to search through the DOM tree to find the locator that you want. And you can write things that are like, I search for text, or I find a button with this text value. And so let's actually add XPath to this. And XPath should be another plugin that we can add. So to do that, I will actually stop this. And then I will install it. So here we want to install cypress-xpath. And while it's installing, we need to, in order to use it or to make use of it, we want to add it to the support/index. So let's do that. Support/index, so Cypress support/index.js. And then all we need to do is we just need to import it. And it'll be cypress-xpath, just like that. And by doing that, we should be able to use XPath with our Cypress. And so going back to our step definitions, if we were to rewrite this, if we were to write the thing, so instead of doing a cy.get, we would do cy.xpath. And then, we can do whatever we want to do. I will not write it at the moment. I do want to open Cypress again, and then simply in the browser, check for the XPath and just verify that I am using the right XPath before actually writing it and making it as a test. Okay, the plugin's missing, so I may have not added it correctly. So let's look at the support index. I am importing cypress-xpath. Cypress-xpath, let me just make sure I spelled it correctly. Seems like I spelled it correctly. I did import it. Okay. Let me actually then double check by going to cypress-xpath. And then let me see. So we have this, and then you can require or import works as well. Maybe I should just use require cypress-xpath in Cypress support index.js. Just double check. Yes, I'm in the right directory, Cypress. All right, I'm gonna do it like that. Oh, it actually cannot find cypress-cucumber-preprocessor. And that is because, let me just delete my package lock JSON for now. I think that messed it up. So let me reinstall npm install. So we have cypress-xpath, and then we want the cucumber as well. So the import should be fine here. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to go to the Cypress. Yeah. And then add this. This should work. I think it should have did a save dev on it as well. I can double check. But while it's installing, yeah. In the future, with the lock file, just make sure to, if you don't have it, to do the -- save dev or dev on it to ensure that it's also part of the lock file. Otherwise, the npm install may look at the lock file first before going to the package JSON, because npm tries to use the lock as a source of truth. Same thing with yarn. So while that's installing, so actually let me write this. So since we don't have it right now, what we can do is we can just try to test it in the browser ourselves. Just like that. Remarkablemark. And then when I do an inspect over here, what we can do is, the cool thing about the XPath is you can just search for it directly over here. And so I believe we have the, so normally what you have is you have the / and the slash. So / means like it's not relative, whereas the slash is. And so we can do something like / and then the tag element. like for example, H3. You'll see that it selects H3. And then if we want to check for text, we use @text, or no, not @text. Would be for like attributes, but text would be text like that, equals, and then remarkable mark home. And you'll see that it's case sensitive as well. Boom. And then if you want to try to match everything, you can use the asterisk or the star. So we'll use that for our XPath. And then we want to add a test like should have length. So we can see something like this. This will ensure that Cypress will throw or assert in the set if this fails. So it should have length 1. Then it should have downloaded by now. Perfect. And then running Cypress open again. Hopefully there are no errors this time. Cool. So it's opening. And no errors. Perfect. So now when I click on GoogleSearch.feature, it will open. And then let's see. The time of truth. Let's get it. Oh snap, MrWhiteHawk, you are here. How you doing, man? I see you in the chat. Yeah, definitely shout out to MrWhiteHawk. He's also on Twitch, I believe, with the same username. Feel free to check him out too. He plays some games. He's a pretty cool person. I know him in person. And so it's searching remarkable mark. And then now it's waiting for the page to load. I see remarkable mark, assert, expected, length of 1, boom, true. And there we go. We've now refactored this test to actually make it using Gherkin syntax. And so that means like we can write future tests and not just like GoogleSearch.feature, for example, but like if we ever want to write a new test, we can reuse some of these steps. You know, we could like, for example, although this shouldn't be part of this feature, I'm just going to prove a case. Example, given I go to example.com, right? And then I see example. It might not see it, but let's try it out. I'm going to comment out the other test just for now. So it only runs one at a time. And it doesn't see example, so this should fail. But it should see example domain, just like that. And let me just make sure that the XPath is correct. I will make this a little smaller. Nice. So if we do a Command F, and then now we want to search. Alternatively, if you also want to check for XPath, if you go to console, I believe you can use the $X to search for XPath. That also works as well. And so we can do star text equals example domain. Let's see. It returned nothing. It returned nothing because, let me try to select this. It should actually match it. Maybe my syntax is wrong. Let's try it again. Okay, so it worked here. Is there something wrong with my syntax in this one? Let's see. Whoops. Let's put it in a string first. Oh, and now it returned. Okay. I don't know what the difference was, why it didn't work the first time. But it showed in two places, actually. It showed also in the title. So this is where sometimes in XPath, it might be useful to do like / body and / like star. And then you can see that 1 of 1, it found 1 of 1. And to show also on the other case as well, $x, quotes, boom. Now we have length of 1, just like that. So let's actually, this is a good time. We can use it to improve this when step over here. And it's that we see the string only in body. So we save that. And then this we can update to example domain. Cool. And I'll save it. And for some reason, it's actually seeing the text as remarkablemark home, which is wrong. And it's because that's my fault. I did not actually use that, use the text that should be passed in here. So let's do this and then save it. This should pass. And see that? Boom, it passed. And so that shows how easy it is and also how reusable these steps are. Like once you create a few common steps, and I believe with that whatchamacallit, with the cypress-cucumber-preprocessor RC, the non-global step definition is true. I believe that you can keep your step definitions inside of your global ones or the common shared ones in integration / common, I believe. I can actually show you. I have another example repository that you can check out. It's similar to this live stream, but with different feature files and examples. And here, let's see, I also have the non-global step definitions true. And in the Cypress directory, you should see that in integration, all my common step definitions are in the common directory. So it will try to load everything here to reuse. And then anything that is in its own relative feature file directory, what it does is in the case that the step has the same text or syntax, it will actually use that to prevent it to be reused by the global ones or the common ones here. So that's a nifty feature. And you can learn more about it if you check out the cypress-cucumber-preprocessor README. But I think the final thing that I can show you over here is that right now, if we look at our dashboard, so I'm going to close this. If we look at our dashboard, you'll see that it also shows up like all our step definitions and other JS files. Like this is not a test. We're not ever going to run it. So how do we only show our feature files or the .feature extensions? And that's pretty simple. What we can do is we have our cypress.json over here. And we can, in the cypress.json, we can add our ignore test files. So here we now ignore all .js files since our tests are written in the .feature extension. And then all our test files are going to be with a global match all .feature, just like that. And another thing is also to add features as well. And the reason why features is added is because with the cypress-cucumber-preprocessor, they allow you as a means of optimizing your tests, of combining all your features together into one like features, like all.features file to help your test run faster. Otherwise, if it would run per feature, it can make the Cypress slow because it has to reopen Cypress or start Cypress each time. So this is just an optimization trick that preprocessor uses, which is why we have that. And I believe once we have this, and this will hide the .features. Let me see if it hides it now. It does. It does it already. That's pretty quick and pretty awesome. And then one also thing that's super useful is using tags. So tags is a environment variable or Cypress environment variable. And the way tags work is what you can do in your feature files is that if you're working on something and you want to just focus on the test, the one test itself, like that. So also, just to note, like the indentation for the feature and the scenario and the steps matter, but everything else doesn't really. So like you can do this, and I believe it should still be fine. But let's see. But so if you want to just run one test, like if you're using describe it.only, for example, then you can create a tag for that. So here we have the at focus. You can name this whatever you want. You can also name it like at only, for example. But if you add the feature right now, what you want to do is you want to only run. So we have the not at only, at focus. So this will only run that test. Currently, it should. Let's see if it still works. Let me run it to see if it gets picked up as well. The thing is, using the tags does kind of break the whatchamacallit, doing the Cypress open in the GUI. The tags are useful if you want to run it without the GUI. So I just want to confirm if it breaks, because it should. Let's see. All right, it's running, it's loading. It will run soon. Okay, I guess it ran without issues. Sweet. Okay, so the thing that does break, and so you'll notice that it skipped the Google search feature, but it did run the example one. And so the thing that does break is if you want to skip a test. So for example, if a scenario is work in progress and you want to skip it, then you can do like an at skip or at ignore or at whip work in progress. So let's just use ignore here just to follow their README. And then if I save it, what I want to do here is I want to do not at ignore and at focus. And if you want to add more tags, what you can do is you can use the parentheses like that, and then do like at skip, or at whip. And then you can do the same thing with the and as well. So and at only. So if we save it, here I expect it to break. All right, so let's click on this. All right, while it's loading, let me show you it running with the skip by doing nps cypress run. So Cypress run, different from open, is that it actually runs your test. And you can specify additional arguments. By default, it runs headless Electron, but you can specify the browser to be Chrome. You can do it headless, non-headless, whatever you like. You can configure it in your CI or continuous integration system. Cool. So let me make my terminal larger as it's running. Let's see. I wonder if there's a issue or it's just being slow. Yeah, normally on your laptop it should be fast. I think because I'm streaming and doing a lot of other things in the background, it is slowing me down a bit. Okay, so it skipped 2 tests actually. Let me see. Why did it skip 2 tests? I think I should have only ignored this scenario. All right, for now, let me not use the parentheses and just do it normally like this. Alternatively, to pass tags, you can also do it via the environment variable in the syntax before you run it, like npx cypress or yarn cypress, or you can also pass it as arguments, like dash dash. Okay, it's also running the video, but let me also see what is happening with the other browser. Let's see, it's Chrome. It's other Chrome. All right, so it was pending for 2. Let me just close this for now. Let's try to run it again to see if it should only skip 1. Yeah, it should only skip this scenario. And also, since we're here while it's running, I do want to, okay, while it's running, I can actually I can make it run in its own terminal on the right, but as it's running, I do want to add that there are also the and the but, which can be used to chain commands. So like, for example, if you're doing like a few whens, like when I do something, when I type something, for example, over here, and it looks like, you have a lot of givens and whens and thens, something to help with readability is you can just add an and over here. And something I like to do, which you don't have to, is indent. So now you can do like given, when, then, and, etc. Or you can use but, like that. And so that, once again, just helps a bit with the readability. Not required, optional, but useful. Okay, so I think it's the same thing, but I know that the tag should work because I have tested it in this example. I won't go into it further, but if you clone this repository and follow it, it should follow kind of the similar features. So it would be in the cypress.json. Here I use the @skip, not @skip. So skip ignores and only focuses. And then you can see that I have a test where I have it skipped here, where the scenario is skipped over here. Because I never mapped it to an actual, the given, when, and then code. And I think that is the gist of this Cypress Cucumber live stream. As always, check out the documentation. I will have the links in the description, and tell me how it goes. It should definitely improve your testing capabilities, and I think readability is a big plus. In the end, you want to write tests that don't test implementation details, as Kent C. Dodds would say. And by mimicking user behavior as much as possible, you add a lot of confidence to your software and to your code. And that makes happy developers, more productive developers, and also happy rest of the PE or product engineering team, PMs, QAs, business, etc. So yeah, that's it for this live stream. I will catch you in the next one.